Bam! What it do, KTTV? This is KT bringing it live with another episode of the Daily K Podcast. And on today's episode, I have the OG, educator, life coach, and founder of Beyond Life Coaching, Dr. Mag. How you doing today, Dr. Mag?
I am good. I am feeling good, feeling great, feeling good. How are you?
Look, it has been a real day in education. The game don't stop, and we got to keep pushing forward.
Yeah. I don't envy the position that teachers are in at this time, teachers and administrators. So much love to you. Much love.
Look, it's be some hard decisions every day.
But
look, we're going to keep pushing. So what has been going on with you though? I think since the last time we talked, we talking tenure, we talking we just talking a lot, Doc. So before we jump into the realness of what's gonna happen tonight, how have you been? What's been up with you?
Man, I didn't even remember. Like, I didn't think that you would even remember tenure. I've been well. I've been continuing to support the wellness of others, but have worked in the last several months to intentionally support my own holistic wellness. And that feels amazing. Yeah. When you're used to pouring into other people, feeling what it feels like to pour back into yourself, it just is a phenomenal feeling. So celebrating myself, rewarding myself, treating myself for the accomplishments that I have had over this last year, like, earning promotion and tenure, and then just loving myself fully, loudly, and definitely boldly and unapologetically.
Unapologetically. So now with that, as you talk about loving yourself, I know you've been taking them trips. So where all have you been on that self-care journey?
I took myself to Arizona to a wellness resort for my birthday. Yeah. Solo trip, solo travel, and that felt wonderful. Very adult-like to take yourself on a vacation. I also went to Costa Rica. So I took myself on a wellness retreat in May for my birthday and decided at that retreat that, Black women deserve spaces to retreat. And so I went to Costa Rica to begin planning wellness retreats for Black women.
Okay. And so is the first one already planned and ready to go?
Yep. I don't have a date set yet for people like, wait. I don't have a date set yet. But the plans are there.
Well, I'm just asking if I can go and get that exclusive drop, when you get ready to go live with it, that you come on back and just announce it here.
Absolutely.
Because there you go there. So, man, okay, tonight, very, very important show. Is it Parentification?
I'm really excited about this topic too.
Yes, Adultification.
Yes.
So I think starting with the Parentification.
Okay.
To you, what do you say it is in your terms? And then I'll bring in the book term but I want you, because you got such a way with words, Dr. Matt. Give us some examples of parentification for the people in the back too.
Ooh, examples of parentification and a definition of it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's be easy with it. Parentification is a role reversal where parents may relegate adult-like responsibilities, the responsibilities that belong to the parent, onto the child. Sometimes a child will take on these responsibilities, though it wasn't asked of them. So I'll give an example of that too. So you asked what it looks like in our community. It looks like the oldest sibling or the oldest girl child having to cook for, clean up after, babysit younger or other siblings, possibly cousins who may live in the house. Most usually these children are not afforded the space to be children like the children they are caring for. And often parents are working or out And that means that the parentified child cannot have their own life. So think teenagers who aren't able to go to a party or the dance at the school because they have to babysit.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's taking away their own childhood. It also looks like parents not securing care for their children. That's another big one. Sometimes parents won't even secure care because they believe they have a child in the home who's old enough, mm-hmm. whether they are or aren't, to take care of the rest of the kids. It's like sometimes parents think, well, if I told you the rules, like don't answer this door when I'm not home, that's it.
Hey, look, that's what it was.
Now the 8-year-old can take care of the 5-year-old and the 3-year-old because they're not going to answer the door. Mm-hmm. It's more to taking care of kids than that, right? And so we see all kinds of things happen. I remember a case in the news a few years ago where 2 3-year-olds, they were twins, were left at home with like an 18, 19-month-old.
Yeah.
And unfortunately put this baby in the oven. Which was fatal. But why 2 3-year-olds would be left with a 19-month-old?
Yeah,
I can't wrap my mind around.
We got something down here like that right now. We had 3 kids left in there. I think one was like 6. The other one could have been too much older, and the other brother had been dead for like a year, and they've been in the house.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, but you thinking about that though. Yeah, man. I don't know, Doc.
Yeah. And then also with kids who take on the responsibility.
Yeah.
Parents didn't give it to them, but they take it on. That usually happens when there's abuse or addiction.
Yeah.
Or sheer neglect, right? Mm. So this is a child who may be cleaning up their mother's wounds or father's if there's a domestic violence. Or cooking for them, or cleaning the house so the other parent won't enact violence on the household. And that's the same when there's addiction, cleaning up a parent, cleaning up vomit, all those kinds of things, or taking care of siblings because the parent, it doesn't have the ability to.
And when I was researching it, it was the, so they said the instrumental and the emotional. So then the instrumental is that adult role, paying the bills, etc. But the thing is, which is hard, and I don't know how we stop it, is what happens when we can't afford that child care, right? Or when there is just nobody, and this is the only person that allows me to work to feed my family. How do we stop that cycle, Dr. Lang?
Yeah.
That's a real one.
It's a real question.
That's a real question.
I think we have to consider that our job is our job. Mm-hmm. And at the point when the children were babies and we didn't have the help and support, we figured it out. Mm-hmm. Now that they got a little age on them, we don't have to figure it out anymore. Mm-hmm. Now it's not their responsibility anymore.
Yeah.
I think we have to build community. That becomes our responsibility. We have to build a village so that we get out of, I don't have nobody else. Yeah. Right? We won't always live around family. Our family might not always be the people to go to anyway.
Yeah.
But how are we forming and creating and building villages around ourselves and around our children so that we can continue to do our job as parents and the children can do their job as children. Children should never have to do our job, right? Mm-hmm. Their job is to be children, go to school, do well, be the best versions of themselves every day, not to pay our bills and do all the heavy lifting.
Yeah. Yeah, I think about that. I remember when I had my my launch for my business, my mom came and spoke and she talked about me being 12, and then I will have to drive. I drop her off, and I would go to the grocery store for my brother and sister. And so then I remember like the menu that I would buy is like ingrained in my head of what I do. And then I come home because she worked from 2 to 10:30, and so then I had to grind it out. But that was one of the rules. Don't open that door while I'm gone. And then she'll pull up, but you just think about that cycle. Like by the time she come home, I'm asleep, then I wake up and then I go to school. And so, but it was nobody else. I had to step it up, but it's a lot when you take it on. Like I say, but and I think it does have like later effects, because their childhood is different, like
Yeah. Or there's a lack of childhood.
Yeah.
Or you tend to take on more adult-like things that you may not have normally done, right? Yeah. So now if I'm living life like an adult, I may dibble and dabble in things that I don't have no business dibbling and dabbling in. Yeah. You understand what I'm saying? It also breeds resentment. At some point, I might start to resent my mother or resent my parent for the tasks and the roles that I have. I may start to resent my siblings.
Yes.
Okay? Because now I'm forced to do some stuff that I don't want to do. So, when my brother was like 14, I was 10, my sister was 3. Mother at this point was a single mom. My parents were in the act of divorcing. Yeah. And I think my mom thought she may have been leaving us in the care of the 14-year-old. The 14-year-old thought, I'm a teenager, I'm going to have a life, which meant it was me, the 10-year-old with the 3-year-old.
Yeah.
I began to resent my sister because for me, in my child mind, she was the reason that I couldn't go to the skating rink with my friends. She was the reason that I couldn't go to the sleepover, right? Yeah. Everybody's coming to school on Monday talking about all the things that they did as kids on the weekend, but I spent my weekend, opening up SpaghettiOs and doing for her. Yeah. I began to resent her, and that resentment lasted such a long time. And the fact of the matter is that she was a kid too, and it wasn't her fault. Yeah. She wasn't asking me to keep her. That wasn't on her, but she became the object of my anger because I'm a child. I don't want to do this.
Yeah. So now that's one side of it, but another side of that parentification is the emotional part.
Yeah.
So it says when the parent takes on the role of the confidant and the mediator, or when the child does. So, man, I think that's a totally different toll. But once again, when there is nobody,
see, that becomes a crutch.
Yeah.
You start saying, well, there is nobody. You'll have no friends.
Yeah.
You have no colleagues. You don't have any siblings. You don't there's nobody that you can talk to, that your child becomes your everything, that you're coming home talking about the faculty meeting or the issue with your supervisor. You are telling your child, and I have friends who this is their experience. You as the parent are telling your child the intimate details of your romantic relationship. You don't have no friends.
Yeah.
That's not there's nobody else. That's you aren't extending yourself in ways to secure what you need. So you take it from your child. That's not okay. And I know that we've done it and I know that we do it, but the question is, do we want to be better?
Yeah. So then what's the first step for, if I'm a parent right now and this resonated with me, what's the first step in your opinion to combating parentification?
I think that depends on what kind of parentification it is.
Yeah.
What kinds of things. And I want to also be clear in saying I completely and utterly understand when we feel like we don't have resources around us. Let me make sure that your audience understands that I am a single mother. And when I say single mother, I don't mean that I do it all by myself, because I do have a village. I have friends and family. I mean that I don't have any support by the other parent. Yeah. Okay. But that required me to not feel like I needed to be Superwoman and always wear a cape. It required me to find strength in vulnerability and ask for help. Sometimes we aren't willing to do that. I can do it. I've been doing it all my own. I've been doing it since I was 10. I've been taking kids all my life. I can do it. Yeah. Okay. But do you want to keep doing it all by yourself? Right. Yeah. I had to get out of that mind and start asking for help. And what I found was when I asked for help, people were willing to help me. Yeah. I thought, ain't nobody gonna help me. Don't nobody ever help me. I've been doing this all by myself. But when I asked for help, people were willing to help me. So first of all, parents, we have to build a village. Some of the women in my life are mothers of my friend's son. I mean, my son's friends.
Yeah.
So if you're going to be in class with this kid all the time or at this activity with this kid all the time, let me get to know the parents of the children that you're around. And now these people have become my friends. And so if I say, hey, can you keep my son? Because I need to do X, Y, Z. Okay, cool. And they say, hey, on this Friday, can you grab him? Because I want to. Now we become an exchange and a resource of support. That's not the child's responsibility. That becomes the parent's responsibility. Now, if this is all you've ever seen and this is all you ever know, and you need to unlearn some habits and some patterns and some ways of being, then I definitely encourage people to seek therapy, counseling, wellness coaching, right? So that we can begin to undo some things in us to stop causing further harm to our children.
Man, that's it. So now, man, I guess the next part of our conversation was the adultification.
Yeah.
But when I looked at everything, it was so amazing to me how the parentification is the narrative for how the adultification happens. You know, because our parents say that there is nobody else, and then they talk to us, and people, I feel like people know that happens in our community until they kind of shift that to say, well, you need less nurturing, or you are more independent, or that you know about topics including like sex. And so
you grown.
Yeah, basically what it is.
Yeah.
But so I got the old statistics. 2014, it says Black girls are suspended at a higher rate than girls of any other race. So do you think that comes from the adultification being intimidating, or what do you think, Doc?
Ooh, okay. That's a good question. I think that adultification comes from varied places, but I don't want us to negate the fact that white supremacy is alive and real. And it exists within institutions to include schools. And so when you have Black and brown children who are educated most usually by teachers that don't look like them, and when they are educated by teachers that look like them, remembering that we're all indoctrinated in the same society, so we begin to take on similar white supremacist tenets about our own people. So let's be clear there. But here you have people who don't see the full humanity of the Black and brown children that they work with. So it's very easy to dehumanize these children in varied ways. And one of the ways in which Black children and Black girls in particular are dehumanized is by not seeing them as who they are, right? And so we discount the fact that they are a child or a teenager, and they may do things that is immature or too playful, or you didn't use your best judgment. And we believe that they are being intentional, deliberate, and malicious.
Yeah. Well, that's what it's saying. Robbing Black children. I mean, like I said, I don't know. I haven't had this problem as far as in my personal experience. Cause no, you better not. You get it together. Don't you up here trying to be grown? But that's me. But so I don't talk about. I don't count it against them, I would say, but I have seen that in real life, right?
Absolutely.
So it says when compared with white girls and Black girls, like I said, neediness, nurturing, protection, support, and comfort. They're being more independent. They know about more topics. So the question is, how do we change that perception? And how much does that parentification contribute? So do we back up and we got to change that before we can change the adultification? Or how does that work?
That's a good question. I think part of it is understanding children culturally. If we're talking about school spaces and we're talking about adultification in school spaces, I think part of it is understanding children culturally. So, we in the South. And, part of the reason that Black girls are suspended from schools at a higher rate are for subjective infractions. So subjective meaning that if they come to your classroom, they may be put out for doing something that if they did it in my classroom, they wouldn't be put out for. It's a personal thing. It's an individual thing. And one of those things that Black girls, when they look at the data, one of the things that Black girls have been suspended for, put out of classrooms for, is for being sassy.
Mm-hmm.
I am a professor of education. I teach teachers. I observe teachers in practice. And white girls in these Southern schools are sassy as hell, okay? But white girls get to be sassy. They get to have Southern charm. They get to be Southern belles. When Black girls are the same sassy, now we look at it. It's our perception of Black girls. Right? And what realistically is happening is whatever I think about Black women, I am now overlaying on the Black girl. So this is how I read Black women. So if a Black girl does this, I'm going to dismiss, disregard, dehumanize her based on my perception. Same thing with Black boys. If I think this about Black men, it's overlaid on the Black boys. If I think this about Latinas, onto Latina, right? We just overlay our own thoughts of the adult onto the child. Yeah. And that is wildly problematic. I think about Tamir Rice, 12 years old. I haven't seen a picture of Tamir Rice when he didn't look like a 12-year-old. Yeah. And for those of you who are familiar with the story, he swapped out toys with another friend. And so he had a toy gun and the friend took whatever his toy was. And Tamir was at a park by himself playing at the park. Someone seeing him calls the police and says that he has a gun, but they don't think it's real. If Tamir Rice is at a park by himself with a gun, the only person he stands to hurt is himself. That's first. Let's be very clear there. But after, what did it take? 2 seconds from the video footage? It took 2 seconds for the officer to pull out, jump out his car, and shoot Tamir. 2 seconds. And when he called EMTs, he said he's about 20 years old. I, as a Black woman, as a teacher, as a mother, as a mentor, as an auntie, I have not seen one picture of that baby where he looks 20 years old. It's a way to dismiss us and to continue to dehumanize us, and they're doing it to our children. And they becomes us sometimes. Are doing it to our children. So, what we need to do in our community as it relates to how we parent is a thing. How we hold our school spaces responsible for how they treat our children is another thing altogether, right? I read a case about a young man in Virginia, 14 years old, goes through the lunch line, and his story is he forgot his milk. Now, me and you, we worked in schools. We know these kids forget things, all the milk, the fork, they didn't get their peach cup, whatever it is, right? And so he goes back and he gets his milk. Yeah. And the school resource officer handcuffs him, arrests him. He's charged with 2 felonies, and they were going to try him for stealing a 65-cent milk because they believed his intentions, right?
Yeah, there we go.
Believed his intentions were intentional, deliberate, and malicious. Meanwhile, he was on free and reduced lunch. So the milk belonged to him. And let's say that he did take a second milk. It's 65 cents. There's nobody here who'd be willing to give 65 cents so this man isn't arrested and charged. He's 14 years old. But we throw these kids away the same way that we are thrown away in this society.
Yeah. So now, in thinking about, like you said, educator of educators.
Yeah.
I started my boys club to simply, you think about the school I was at, it was 98% other than African-American staff, 76% African-American student population.
Okay.
So the book I took was Principal Kafele, motivating Black boys of color to achieve inside and outside the classroom. Created the boys club, talked to the teachers, worked with, I was doing my intern year, worked with them, creating empathy and not sympathy. But this is what I have to do already in the system. As an educator of educators, how do you kind of front load that when you see it within those classes?
Adultification?
Yeah, like just the way that they see, remember, because you said the way that they see the women, the same way they see their child. So in those conversations, it got to slip out.
Yeah, absolutely it does. Absolutely it does. So, in my classes, I am direct. We're going to have conversations, particularly about who we are and how we bring who we are to what we do, right? I tell my students all the time, politics aside, if you believe in build a wall, what will you do when you have a child in your classroom who you believe should be on the other side of it? Yeah. Whatever you think about Latinos or the Latinx community, Hispanic community is what you're going to then think about their children. So I'm very upfront about doing the work, the identity work that is necessary for teachers to be aware of themselves and their biases. And again, this is very significant because white teachers continue to dominate the teaching force. So let's be clear there. But it still becomes significant for teachers of color to do their own work. What do you believe about yourself, your people? Yeah. And what do you believe about people who don't look like you? Because you teachers, we dominate that space when we're in the classroom. The classroom takes the tone of who and how we are. So those are things that I say. I also teach about, cultural differences. So one of those things is this: Black folk are demonstrative. Look at me when I'm talking. Hands are going. Okay. When we laugh, especially them good laughs that come all the way from the core, we can't sit still on a good laugh. You can't sit still on it. You got to slam your fist down or stand up to let it out. You may have to run back and forth a little bit. We are demonstrative people. And so, I share this example with my class. I'll share it with your audience, that if you can imagine 4 Black middle school girls laughing in a cafeteria, right? They could be talking about old girl's hair. They could be talking about his breath stank. They could be talking about the teacher, what she was dressed like, whatever. But imagine 4 Black girls, middle school, laughing in the cafeteria. January 2019. White vice principal sees them laughing. She described their behavior as giddy and hyper. And so she asked them and the school nurse to come to her office, and she strip searched these girls because she said that their laughter must be drug induced. She didn't call a parent. She didn't gain permission. She asked these young ladies to take their clothes off, which I would tell every child, no adult gets to get you alone and ask you to take your clothes off. I don't care where you are or who you're with. They don't get to ask that. And you know what drugs she found? None. Because they Black girls having a good time. Yeah. They're Black girls having a good time. That was upstate New York, January 2019.
It's real, man. And so I think a big part of that too is just educating, right? So we think about community events or events as far as to bring awareness to that. And so I'm gonna put you on the spot here.
Okay.
If Beyond was throwing an event to bring awareness to this or to change this, what would it look like?
If I were throwing an event.
Yeah. We got to do something for the community because we got to educate them on this.
We are community engaged folk. Okay.
That's what I'm saying.
We got to do a couple of things.
Yeah.
And I've done this work before with parents. I always bring parents into the work that I do. At any level of success, and I say this all the time, any level of success that I had when I was a classroom teacher, 4th grade teacher, is because I connected with the parents, right? Yeah. Parents trust me. They trust you with their child. They gonna do their best for you. The kids gonna do their best for you. So one of the things we have to do is we got to kind of double talk. I want to teach parents how to be their child's educational advocate. Sometimes we don't know how to maneuver these systems. And I think it's important that parents understand how to do so. That becomes significant. How to advocate for your child when your child is saying, here's an example. Culturally, Black folks tend to have, as the research states, we tend to have a direct communication style. Afro-Latino cultures, and generally white cultures have a indirect, what we would call passive aggressive. So if my daughter is in, Miss Beckenworth's class, and Miss Beckenworth says, Tiana, would you like to take a seat? Indirect. Would you like to take a seat? You asked a question. Now, Tiana come from our community. If you ask me a question, I get to answer it, right?
No.
Tiana say no or nah or I'm good, right? She's standing, she talking. Now, Miss Beckenworth, Tiana, I'm tired of it. It's always disrespect. It's the constant respect for you. Get out of my classroom. And Tiana saying, what did I do? Because she all she knows is that she asked the question, I answered the question, I'm being kicked out. She doesn't make the connection, right? Because if Ms. Beckenworth wanted Tiana to sit down, then she should have said, Tiana, I'm about to start math, sit down. And Tiana, coming from a respectful home, would have said, okay, she would have sat down, but she was asked a question. She didn't know she was supposed to read between the lines. So those are the kinds of things that parents need to know. Those kinds of things that administrators need to know. I talked to an administrator, Black woman administrator, school full of white teachers, and she just sat there with her eye. I said, oh, so now you're thinking about students who have come to your office.
Yeah, for this very issue.
And you didn't check it. You didn't ask any questions, right? So that's one. But on the flip side, parents, we have work to do. I'm not suggesting that you go into school and act as though your child could never, ever, ever do anything wrong or inappropriate, right? Like, let's not do that. Let's not do that either. If it's January and you don't know what your child's teacher looks like, that's a you problem. You should know what your child's teacher look like. You shouldn't come up to the school now that there's an issue saying, which one of you is Dr. Matt? Why don't you know who I am when I spend every day with your child? That's your responsibility, right? There are a level of responsibilities that the school has, and we want to teach parents how to do those things. And at the same time, parents, we got to take more responsibility for what we're doing in our parenting, and then what that looks like when we are with our children, when our children are in different spaces. So I think both of those things have to happen. I think also it becomes a responsibility for organizations. Beyond Life Coaching is moving into this space. And so when that launches, I'll be back. But to increase accessibility and affordability to holistic care. And so when I say holistic care, I don't just mean your mental and emotional. I mean your financial well-being too. Sometimes people want to do better, but they was writing the checks for the parents. They was, ghosting the creditor on the phone. So they don't really know how to balance their own money. But if I don't know how to manage my money, how do I pay for a financial advisor? I want to be able to bridge that gap so people have the resources that they need, right? What does that mean for your occupational wellness? How do you know how to advocate and for higher salary, right? Negotiate. Don't just take what they offer off the top. Your environment. Where are you living? Is this a safe place for you and your children? I think that there are a lot of conversations that need to be had, but we have to be open and receptive to that. And sometimes we close off. Well, I'm doing the best job I can do. Great. But there's still more that can and should be done. Are we willing to move ahead as a community together? Or are we just going to keep fighting each other and not working to forge ahead?
Yeah, I think so. And it all starts with building that community, not being afraid to ask for help and reaching out to somebody.
Absolutely.
Hey, all right, Doc. So I think I know what's next. Sound like you're about to get into some things over there beyond. So I want to say thank you for taking some time. And how do we find you? How do we get a coaching session and all that you have at Beyond?
Yes. You can follow me on Facebook at Beyond Well Coach, or YouTube at Beyond Well Coach, or Instagram at Beyond_Well_Coach. Sometimes people want to get to know you. They want to get comfortable, right? And you can do that by seeing the kinds of content that I post, which is always inspiration, encouragement, motivation, life coaching tips and strategies that align with those various aspects of our well-being. You can always DM me or inbox me for a free coaching consultation, or you can go on my website, which is beyondwellcoach.com. Consultations are always free, and we could talk about what that looks like. If we need to do a coaching session with you and your children, let's do it. If we need to do coaching sessions as a family, let's do it. I am sincerely here for our betterment and our advancement. The calling on my life is not aligned or attached to my financial well-being. So you find a lot of people who are willing to do it, but they're going to charge you $1,000 because they just trying to, be an influencer. I'm not trying to be an influencer, but I do want to influence your life in positive ways. If you feel led to work with me or to just follow me and get that inspiration on a daily basis. So please tap in, please connect. You and I are going to keep doing work, so y'all will see again on the Daily K podcast.
Hold up.
I'd love to interact with anyone who's heard me tonight.
Yeah, there it is. That well, thank you, and you are right. I look forward to the work. So I'll see you soon.
Soon.
All right, y'all. All right, this is KT for KTTV signing out. 100.
This is Darnell with Broadcast Houston.
This is Dr. Tamara Beckford.
Hey, this is Candace.
This is London Underwood.
This is Kirsten Bass with Inner City Greens, and you're watching.
Y'all are now tuned in to
KTTV.
KTTV.
KT.